Amateur Radio News and Notes for Friday, July 10th, 2026. I'm Ed Kavik, November 2, Echo Charlie. In the log this week, the World Radiosport Team Championships 2026 is this weekend. We'll also do a contest spotlight for the IARU HF World Championship. The ARRL announces a new Atlantic Division Vice Director. We'll also talk about some MVARC Nets on the air, see what's happening with DX, give a solar activity update, talk about some upcoming contests, and take a look at interesting online radio content. As always, links to all reference content can be found in the show notes or at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. This weekend brings the 2026 edition of the World Radiosport Team Championship, or WRTC, in the United Kingdom. WRTC is a quadrennial contest that many consider to be the Olympics of amateur radio contesting. The competition is a 24-hour trial that runs concurrently with the IARU HF World Championship, starting on Saturday, July 11th, 2026 at 1200 UTC. That's 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, and ending on Sunday, July 12th, 2026 at 11:59 UTC. That's 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. WRTC is unique in several ways in the world of contesting. One of those unique characteristics is the attempt to provide as level a playing field as is practicable. Each station will be using the same antennas and power equipment and be limited to 100 watts of forward power, and referees will be on site with each team. Speaking of teams, there are 50 teams of 2 competitors, including 40 teams that are selected via points qualification process from other contests over the previous years, 1 team consisting of the previous champions, 4 youth teams, and at least 2 sponsored teams send at least 1 wildcard team. This year, you should be able to track the competition in real time using an online scoreboard from World Radio League. A link to that is in the show notes. There will also be coverage on the WRTC 2026 YouTube channel, also a link in the show notes. Since they will be participating in the IARU HF World Championship, you can try to work as many of these special event stations as you can. The exchange is Signal Report and ITU Zone, so if I were to work a WRTC station from my QTH in Virginia on CW, my exchange would be 5998. A map of ITU zones can be found at a link in the show notes. Full event information, rules, and updates can be found at WRTC2026.org. Good luck. As mentioned in our story on the WRTC 2026 competition, this weekend brings the IARU HF World Championship. The contest starts on Saturday, July 11th, 2026 at 1200 UTC. That's 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, and ends on Sunday, July 12th at 11:59 UTC. That's 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. The stated objective of the contest is, quote, to support amateur self-training in radio communications, including improving amateur operating skills, conducting technical investigations, and intercommunicating with other amateurs around the world, especially IARU member society headquarters stations. Bands of operation for the contest include the 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10-meter bands on both single sideband and CW. Contacts are valid once per band and mode. Categories of operation include single operator and single operator unlimited in mixed mode, CW only, and phone only. Multi-operator stations may only enter as mixed mode. There's also a youth overlay category for single operator stations under 25 and a category for IARU Society headquarters stations. The exchange is Signal Report and ITU Zone, so from my QTH in Virginia on single sideband, my exchange would be 598. A map of ITU zones can be found at a link in the show notes. For scoring, the QSO points vary by location of the station, with 1 point for contacts within your ITU zone, and with IARU HQ or official stations, 3 points for contacts within your continent, but a different ITU zone, and 5 points for contacts with another continent and a different ITU zone. Multipliers are the total number of ITU zones worked on each band, but not mode, plus IARU member society HQ stations on each band, but not mode. IARU officials represent a maximum of 4 multipliers per band in AC, R1, R2, and R3. IARU member society HQ stations and officials do not count for zone multipliers. The total score is the QSO points multiplied by the total multipliers. Online certificates will be available to all eligible participants for the highest scoring entries in each ITU zone, DXCC country, and ARRL section. IARU member stations and those making at least 250 contacts or having a multiplier total of 75 or more. Logs must be submitted within 7 days after the event is over at 11:59 UTC. For full rules and details, visit arrl.org/IARU-HF-World-Championship. Good luck. On July 6, 2026, the Amateur Radio Relay League, or ARRL, announced that Ray Sokola, K9RS of Wilmington, Delaware, was appointed as Atlantic Division Vice Director by ARRL President Rick Roderick, K5UR. The position was vacant due to previous Atlantic Vice Director Marty Newingham, AG3I, having assumed the office of Atlantic Division Director after it had been made vacant earlier this year. That vacancy was due to previous Atlantic Division Director Robert Famiglio, K3RF, being declared ineligible for office in a dispute over a change to ARRL bylaws, Section 46D. Vice Director Sokola will serve the remainder of the term, expiring December 31st, 2026. Division elections are held each year for 5 of the 15 divisions for terms of 3 years. For more information, visit the link in the show notes. Now it's time to take a look at some MVARC Nets on the air. We got the 2-meter FM net on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the repeater. That is immediately followed by the 2-meter digital net on Yaesu System Fusion C4 FM on the same frequency. And then the MVARC Slow Speed CW Roundtable is on Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. on 3.565 megahertz CW. And that's followed by the MVARC Cherry Tree net on Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time at 3.920 megahertz lower sideband, where we always have a great conversation, and you're always welcome to join us. And now let's take a look at what is happening with DX. There will be a lot of DX on the air this week. Stations on the air include French Polynesia, Cameroon, St. Martin, St. Pierre and Miquelon, Ogasawara, El Salvador, Greenland, Luxembourg, Crete, Benin, Tuvalu, Sardinia, Iceland, and the Isle of Man. A calendar of DX expeditions can be found at NG3K's announced DX operations list at ng3k.com. I know it's time for a solar activity update as we go to press. The Solar Flux Index, or SFI, was 110, and the estimated sunspot number was 77, with 5 numbered sunspot regions visible from Earth. Over the last week, the SFI has decreased. Solar activity has been at moderate levels in the last 24 hours. The geomagnetic field has been at quiet to active levels in the last 24 hours, and the KP index reached 4 yesterday. The solar wind peaked at 585 kilometers a second. Solar activity is predicted to be at low levels with a chance of M-class flares and a slight chance for X-class flares today through Sunday. The geomagnetic field is forecast to be at unsettled to active levels today, at quiet to active levels on Saturday, and at quiet levels on Sunday. The chance of solar radiation storms at the S1 or greater level is at 1% today through Sunday. R1 to R2 radio blackouts are possible, with a predicted probability of 40% today through Sunday. R3 or greater blackouts are possible, with a chance of 10% predicted today through Sunday. It remains a fantastic time for amateurs to get on the air and work the world. Good sources of real-time solar information include spaceweatherlive.com and solarham.com. A good overview of conditions can be found at dx.qsl.net/propagation. To see delayer absorption data and associated radio blackouts, visit the NOAA DRAP page. And to see real-time maximum usable frequency, or MUF, and critical frequency, or FOF2 information from Radiosport data, visit prop.kc2g.com. And now let's take a look at some upcoming contests. This weekend brings the IARU HF World Championship contest we discussed earlier, as well as the SKCC Weekend Sprintathon, the QRP ARCI Summer Homebrew Sprint, and the 4 States QRP Group Second Sunday Sprint. As always, the K1 USN SSTs, the MSTs, and the CWTs will also be on the air. The full contest calendar with events and exchanges can be found at contestcalendar.com. And now let's wrap things up with some interesting online radio content. As always, everything we're about to talk about here is linked in the show notes and also at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. Michael KB9VBR builds a V-dipole with the Red Scout system. IMSI Guy takes a look at an inexpensive 3 gigahertz frequency counter. Josh KI6NAZ makes a DIY mesh repeater to attach to his truck. Bob WV7W talks about why we use meters in our frequency band nomenclature. Jason KM4ACK uses APRS to find his nearest WinLink node. Mike KMRD muses over whether field day is obsolete. Doug Bow KD7RT activates soda in adverse conditions with a tarp. Tim K5OHY does a deep dive in comparing dipoles and verticals for DX and how ground matters. Mike KMRD sings the praises of FME connectors for portable and tight installs. Ben Makes Everything builds a variable power supply. And Hans G0 UPL and Hannes DL9 SEO go portable in Germany. Well, that is it for this week. I've been Ed November 2 Echo Charlie. Thanks as always for joining us. We hope you have a great week ahead. Best 73, and we look forward to seeing you next week.